Friends, we have gathered here this morning to honor the life well lived of Herbert Miller. May his memory be a blessing. We're also here to comfort his family, his wife Nancy, his children and their spouses and their children, Jeffrey and Crystal, Randy, Shauna, Zachary, and Melissa, and Braden, the rest of the family, Lois, the nieces, the nephews, the cousins. More than 2,000 years ago, the Jewish sage Ben Sira wrote, "We are all destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived and all who ever will be. Cry for the dead, hide not your grief, do not restrain your mourning. But do remember that continuing suffering can be worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace, and be consoled when their soul departs. For death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest better than constant sickness. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last a short time, but a good reputation endures forever." We have so much control in our lives. We plan so many moments, but sometimes are planned for us. We anticipate so many things and yearn for them, and there are those moments we wish never came. The time of mourning is a complicated time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. Cantor Sarah will chant Psalm 121 in Hebrew, honoring Herb's life and his connection to the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people of Israel. As she chants in Hebrew, I invite you to use this as a meditative moment. Some might choose to close their eyes. You might call to mind a picture of her and focus your awareness on that image. The psalm, in its final line, says, "Please God, guard your going and your coming," as if to say, may the divine presence that brought Herb into this world now watch over him as he enters the world to come.
Ezri
Since his birth in 1937, a lot happened in Herb's life. And to tell you just a few of the stories, I'd like to start by calling on his children and grandchildren. So Jeffrey, if you'll please come forward.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here to honor the life of my father, Herbert Miller. For those who you don't know me, my name is Jeffrey, and I'm his oldest son. Maybe the best way to begin is to quote my father's favorite comedian, Jackie Mason, who said, "If there's a line to get into heaven, I hope they at least will be serving cake while I'm waiting to get in." Herbert Miller was born on June 28, 1937, in Peabody, Massachusetts, to Jenny and Louis Miller. Jenny was from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Louis was born in Austria. Herbert was the youngest of four. He had two sisters, Frances and Annette, and a brother, Kenneth. From an early start, Herb was a people person. He was the treasurer of his Salem High School senior class. His election slogan was, "Put on your derby and vote for Herbie." Life changed that year when he was 17 and lost both of his parents. With courage and determination, he left for basic training in the U.S. Army. Upon his return, he began studying accounting at Boston University. However, that was cut short when he was needed with his brother Ken to run the family business, the General Store. The General Store was a fixture in Newburyport for over 75 years. Dad married my mother, Nancy, on July 4th, 1963. They were happily married for 62 years. He called her after seeing her at the high holidays at Temple Shalom in Salem. As the story has it, she caught his eye looking beautiful wearing a hat during the services. They moved to Auburndale Road in Marblehead and would live at number 11 for 49 years. Life was good for the Millers. In 1976, season tickets were purchased for both the Red Sox and Celtics, which led to Dad's lifetime passion for both of these teams. Our family could be found on most Wednesday and Friday nights at Fenway or the Old Garden, bringing in subs from El Gaucho's in Kenmore Square and smuggling in our pants cans of soda wrapped in tinfoil by my mother, which she believed was good insulation to keep them cool. We had 4 tickets to the Sox. Box 45, row E, 5th row, seats 1 through 4. We could call balls and strikes. Friends watching on TV would spot us and knew what we were wearing. Dad was the original Dennis Drinkwater. Celtics were 2 tickets, but that didn't stop us from bringing in Randy. He would duck under the turnstile up into his bar mitzvah. Security was a bit different back then, but a little kibitz, some cologne samples went a long way with the ushers and security. We saw championship teams of Cowens, JoJo White, and Hondo in '76. Bird, McHale, Parrish in '81, '84, and '86. We went to the 1986 World Series, the 1999 All-Star Game, as well as World Series games in 2004, 2007, and 2013. As you know, my father was the kind of guy you couldn't help but love. He was warm, kind, generous, and always so agreeable. Dad, you want to drive to a new Chinese restaurant an hour away? There was never a doubt the answer was yes. It was also a guarantee we would arrive in style in a car that was hand-washed and waxed. He loved doing this in his driveway on his day off. He had chamois, special hose nozzles and attachments, and a professional buffer. Dad loved business trips to Las Vegas, the Carnegie Deli, Ratner's Milchik Deli on Delancey Street on the Lower East Side, Peter Luger's in Brooklyn, Capri's Deep Dish Pizza, Howard Johnson's Butter Crunch Ice Cream, fried clams, fishing, gardening, showing off his yo-yo skills. He could walk the dog, rock the baby, and bite the pants. He loved Elvis, Neil Diamond, Jackie Mason, Buddy Hackett, Dallas, Knots Landing, and Falcon Crest. But most of all, he loved my mother. He loved everything about her, especially her cooking and the way that she cared for him. A true team and partnership for life. I never witnessed a fight or an argument or either ever raising their voice. My mother was the director of Good Times, and they never missed a Saturday night out. They traveled the world, trips to Hawaii, the Caribbean, Europe, China, and Israel. Dad retired, and they bought a place in Florida. They loved their winters. They felt it was their summer camp. Dad, who was once a sun worshiper and loved being tan, could have been sponsored by the Band de Soleil Company. Now enjoyed spending days with their close friends at Banyan Springs, at the pool under an umbrella. Dinners out most nights of the week. They had an amazing social life. Around 12 years ago, life changed. It became more difficult with a Parkinson's diagnosis. Dad was a champion and always put on a good face. He would apologize to my wife, Crystal, and let her know how disappointed that he was that she didn't get to know him prior to the disease. Crystal would always reassure him that she could not have loved him anymore. My mother, through this all, was an incredible caregiver, by his side every minute. A tribute to her and the love they shared. A special thanks must go out to his aide, Joe. Joe cared for my father 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, allowing to get him out of the house, enjoy family events and dinners, all the while enjoying the highest quality of care. What made him happiest most recently was he was able to attend his nephew Larry's wedding a little over a month ago. I'd like to read you a post I made on LinkedIn on Father's Day 2023. Happy Father's Day to everyone. I want to celebrate my father as the extraordinary person he is. His unwavering love and devotion has shaped me into the man that I am today. I credit my father with developing my interest in investing. Memories so vivid of watching him with his 3-ring hole punch and organizing his binders of statements. He was always seeking out the highest interest rate on CDs. He began investing in mutual funds from Fidelity and Dreyfus in the 1960s. His stock ownership in AT&T led to owning all the baby bells on a dividend reinvestment program. He funded his IRA every year. He encouraged and assisted with my first stock purchase in 1984, which we sold for an eventual profit. We would look up stock prices in the newspaper every night after work, and he would preach his investment theory of winning by not losing. Herbert Miller is a living legend and an example of strength, compassion, and integrity. His hard work, perseverance, and sacrifices are an inspiration to all that know him. How lucky am I to have this man as my dad. Dad, if heaven has a garden up there, I'm sure you've already found a hose to water your tomato plants with the Sox and Celtics on your Panasonic radio from the far aisle of the store. I can hear him saying, everything is perfect, with my poo-poo platter from China Sales or Fantasy Island that I ordered with extra duck sauce and hot mustard. So today, we celebrate the life of an incredible father to many, an amazing husband, father, father-in-law, and grandfather. We hit the lottery with you, Dad. We could never have wished for any better.
Randy?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here with us to honor my dad. My dad came from quite little, but that did not matter. Never sought more than he ever had. Never heard the words, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. Nope, not this man. He was good with just my mom, Jeff, and me and our families by his side. and you, his close friends. My dad told me that's all he ever needs. My dad enjoyed an occasional dinner out on a Sunday as a family, to Beverly for deep dish pizza or Chinese food at Ron's in Wakefield. He loved Szechuan food. Actually, he loved anything spicy. Saturday nights were date night for my dad and my mom. I remember he would rush home from Newburyport just in time to get a 10 or a 15-minute cat nap, to rest up and get ready for the night. But I'm going to tell you a little something, a little known fact. My dad never dressed himself. Nancy was in charge of the clothing. She pulled out every outfit that guy ever wore, so anything you ever saw my dad wearing, he didn't pick it. Nancy was in charge. I don't think she trusted his sense of fashion. I don't know what it was, but my dad didn't care. It was hung up on a hanger outside on the mirror, and that's what you're wearing. What else did my dad really enjoy? Well, there were a couple of outings each year, and it was always going to be to a fancy steakhouse, and it was usually going to be to the Palm. But let me tell you, it wasn't until the birthday lobster certificate came in the mail, because that's a big night out for the Millers. My dad loved his tomatoes and raw onions with extra blue cheese, and steak nights were for us to celebrate. My dad loved to snack. I think he had a heyday walking around BJ's, shopping around for all these different snacks. I think he had them hidden in every nook and cranny in the general store. Nobody knew where they were. My mother certainly thought she knew, but she didn't. He hid them everywhere. He loved to nibble. My dad loved Boston baked beans. He had a box hidden in the glove box, in the door jamb. They were everywhere. Dad, there's one in there for you. You enjoy it. My mother was more worried about his blood sugar and breaking a tooth. My father could have cared less. It was worth the risk. Boston baked beans were his thing. My dad worked a lot, as many of you know. He was at the general store. His pastime was baseball and basketball. He was really proud, as Jeff noted, that he had these amazing season tickets, and I swear Jeffrey and I both got our love for the sports from my dad. He loved to take the four of us to the Sox. He had the best of seats, as Jeffrey noted. It's where all the wives sat. The players' wives sat in front of us, so he thought that was big. He also loved, like, when the Sox were in the playoffs or the World Series. It was a time when many of you know Ace Ticket. Like, my dad thought it was big time that actually he could sell his tickets for like thousands of dollars to Ace Ticket. That was a big deal. He once said to me, he's like, Randy, it's like hitting the lottery. Being with all of us, the four of us at the Sox game on a Friday night, was one of his favorite ways to start a weekend. He always had to find free parking, though. There was no way he was paying for a parking garage. You had to be on Auburndale Road at 4:30 sharp to make it into Boston on time so we can get a free spot on the street. We would approach Miles Standish Road near BU, and Dad would say this very line, "Turn on the charm." What that meant was somebody needed to clear the parking lot so that we could have a free spot. And Jeffrey and I still use this line, I swear, today. Like, when we go, wherever we're going, like, turn on the charm, let's get a free spot. We had to arrive early to get an Italian sub or a steak bomb. Dad loved those. He also loved the fifth inning. Why? Because it was time to go get an ice cream at Fenway. And if not, we were stopping at Kel's Cream on Revere Beach on the way home. That was a ritual. My dad loved the Celtics just as much. Watching them became the pastime for Mom and Dad over the last many years. My dad was not a Bruins fan, and I'm not sure he was much of a Pats fan, because Sundays were for reading the Boston Globe and taking a long nap. That's what Sundays were. My dad really enjoyed his garden. He was proud of everything that it produced. His tomatoes were his pride. In case you cannot tell, the way to my dad's heart was through his stomach. Geez, I wonder where Jeffrey and I get that trait. I think my boys picked it up too. As for my dad and work in Newburyport, he had a natural hustle in him. Whatever it took, my dad would do. But I think he loved his work. He belonged in retail. He worked 6 days a week, 45-minute rides every day back and forth with his brother Ken. They were a fierce team. Ken had the artistic flair in the store, and my dad made sure that he had the eye for the latest trends. Sweater shavers, Paul Mitchell hair products at a discount. Nobody did that, but Herb did. Beanie Babies, Cabbage Patch Dolls, whatever was going to sell and bring back his loyal customers, my dad was sure to find a way to get it on those shelves. No big trend was going to get missed. Christmas at the general store was special. The holiday spirit was vibrant. Everyone in town knew Herb and Ken. If you needed an amazing gift or cosmetics or fragrance, Herb and Ken were your guys. You did not need a department store. You had Herb. Over the years, he has filled thousands of Christmas stockings for kids and adults of all ages. He was a creative secret Santa for many businessmen in Newburyport who didn't know what to buy, but my father did. My father knew he had it under control. Dad loved to shop for others and did it magically, always wrapping your gifts for free and at warp speed. The buzz in the holidays fueled my dad. 15-hour days at the store as Christmas approached. All of us were there. All of us, Robin, me, Jimmy, Larry, everybody. We were all there. Holiday cheer was abundant. Everyone had their jobs, and best yet, we got cash bonuses. My dad was iconic in Newburyport. His store was legendary for the locals. He prided himself in having the hard-to-come-by fragrances direct, which meant that he bought them wholesale, like Chanel and Estee Lauder and Polo Ralph Lauren and Dracar Noir. My dad loved the fact that some of the biggest New York wholesalers of fragrance across the US were his customers. I remember he was so proud of that, like these guys bought from him. My dad was a big timer then. He was scrappy. He didn't mind schlepping. That might have been one of his best crafts. Never too proud to hustle or do what it takes to make an honest buck. He also ran a wholesale operation out of the back of his station wagon. Every Wednesday, he would peddle his goods. The station wagon would be filled on Wednesday morning as he headed out on the road. He would travel to Elliott at Village Pharmacy, Osborne's in Lynn, Parkland Drug, Arnie at Spectre Drug, and more. He'd sell whatever he could get on deal from his salesman friends, and my dad bartered Red Sox and Celtics tickets to get better deals on Colgate toothpaste and Tylenol and other sundries. It was all part of how he made his living. Deals were his thing. He passed that on to me for sure. A good day in the car would be when the car was emptied by noon. It would be filled up back in, for him to go to Malden, to Brudnick. I remember my dad was super proud. He used to fill up his car with merchandise for the store, and somehow he had such trust that they let him walk around the warehouse himself and pick his own products. That was a big deal for Herbert. He thought that was kind of special. But Wednesdays were special. I used to go with him when I was a kid, and my mom would pack us a lunch in a white general store bag. Sandwich wasn't so great, but we didn't matter because we had been at Hoffman's in Lynn and bought candy. My dad and I were side eating candy that Nancy probably didn't know about. But these were special times with my dad. Wednesdays were his day. He was typically home by around 3, perfect to catch a long nap before my mom would get home from Heber School, and then we'd have dinner together. Herbie loved a nap. That guy could sleep. He hopped on a plane. Before the plane took off, he was fast asleep. He was a napper. My dad's career is what led me to pursue my own. The Wednesday drugstore runs are what led me to meet so many pharmacists and to seek this career that I have that's been so rewarding. I'm thankful to you, Dad, for that and for helping me get to grad school. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my dad and how much he and my mom got joy from watching our families grow and to thrive. He was always generous with his time with my boys. He loved to celebrate our milestones, and he cheered us on both openly and quietly. One thing I knew that he cared about was our academic achievements. He was so proud of you, Zachary, for graduating and starting your career in events management and for finding your sweetheart, Madison. He celebrated you, Braden, for getting into Penn State, and he and my mother quelled at every one of your academic achievements. He prioritized higher education, making sure that Jeff and I got to St. John's Prep. He wanted us to be happy in whatever careers we pursued. My dad loved that Shauna started her own business, and I distinctly remember, like when I would tell him about her annual sales growing, and he was so excited to watch her business grow every year. He referred to her as sweets. If you were good, my dad was good. That's how my dad liked it. I feel so lucky that Zachary and Braden got to know my dad and will carry on his kind ways and his generous, positive energy. He certainly taught me and the boys how to live and to be a good person, first and foremost. I have such respect for my father, for a guy who didn't have his father past the age of 17. What a good job he did. A natural people person, a simple guy who lived his life marked by a few core principles. My dad was gentle in his advice, and I'd say I learned most from just watching him. He taught me so many things for sure. He gave me my work ethic. He modeled that you always put your family first and second and third. My dad put us first every single time. If you knew Herb, you loved Herb. He was a man with a heart of gold. He was a good Nishuna. I know that many of you will miss his warmth. I certainly will. He has taught us the basics: love, loyalty, and kindness. These are his biggest gifts to me. Dad, you left everyone you encountered with a smile. The world is a better place because of your sweet ways. Thank you for being an amazing and loyal husband to Mom. You have set the bar high. We will ensure that we take good care of her, not a worry of yours. I feel like the luckiest guy here to have had you as my dad. Rest easy, Daddy. I love you so much.
Braden?
Hi there. My name is Braden. I don't know many of you that I'm speaking to today, but we're all gathered here to not only mourn, but celebrate the life of my grandfather. Herbert, Herbie, as most of you know him, was Papa to me. And for the last 20 years of my life, he's been one of the most kind, loving souls that I've ever known. He wasn't just a grandfather to me, he was a role model, he was a friend, and he was someone that I've been extremely lucky to have in my life for this long. I know that despite these circumstances, Papa would be very happy to know how many of the people here today cared so deeply about him. I have memories of my Papa that date back as long as I can remember. From watching the Red Sox on the couch, to eating circus peanuts and pizza goldfish, I can't think of a single time in my life where I wasn't beyond happy to be around such an amazing grandfather in person. I know that today is a sad day for all of us, but I also know that my Papa wouldn't want us to be sad. He would want us to cherish and celebrate the long and happy life that he lived, and I will do my best to make him proud and to be as good of a person as he was. Heaven is so lucky to have you up there, and I know that you're in a better place now. Thank you for everything, Papa. I'll love you always and forever.
Hi everyone. First off, I want to say thank you all for being here. I'm only familiar with some of the faces here, but that is just a testament to the far-reaching impact of my Papa, Herbert, or Papa to me, as someone who brought us all together and our lives are better as for knowing him. My Papa has shaped me into the man I am today. He was sweet and kind, and he loved a good party. He appreciated his friends and family and surely valued time together at the holidays. He taught me to value what we have and to always show gratitude. He led by example. Didn't preach to us, and he was calm. He never raised his voice, and he was poised always. He was a man you had to love. I loved all the time I got with him, especially time sitting on his lap, squished on his recliner, eating pizza goldfish. Another thing I learned from my Papa is to always be optimistic, even on the darkest of days. Throughout his battle with Parkinson's, both Papa and Nanny did their best to keep living their life together in full, despite the new and increasing challenges. I had many visits to my grandparents over these years, usually over a full table of food. My Papa always enjoyed a Fantasy Island egg roll or periwinkle sandwich, but again, what was more important was that we got to sit around the same table as a family. At the end of these visits, I would always say to my Papa, "I will see you next time." And he would always reply, "That's a promise." This helped give me comfort, but at the same time, I was amazed at how he could be so optimistic. I took this with me into my daily life, realizing I could choose to focus on the good instead of the bad. Another thing I admire about Papa is that he was immensely hardworking. His work ethic continues through my dad and my Uncle Jeff, and I can only hope to be as hardworking and as passionate as the three of them are. I'm thankful to my papa for that. He has taught me so much, and I will continue to try and make him proud. And as Braden said, I can't think of a single time in my life where he wasn't a great grandfather. I know he would want us down here, eating good food and celebrating the life he had, and that's what I plan to do. They're lucky to have you up there, Papa. Thank you for everything, and until next time when we can eat Fantasy Island Chinese and pizza goldfish again, love you always, Papa.
One verse from our tradition that I think encapsulates so much of what all of you have shared is the verse from the prophet Micha. What does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God. I think that Herb lived a life that exemplified these values. Talmud says that the very first question that will be asked when we enter the world to come is, did you conduct your business transactions honestly, with integrity, and in good faith? Whether it was with his customers or his vendors or his own business dealings, conducted that with integrity. He loved to negotiate. He knew always how to get to a place of yes so that each party could call it a win. He sometimes would use the phrase, will you do better with a little green? Which meant if I pay cash, would you give me a discount? He loved goodness. Shammai teaches, greet everyone with a cheerful face. I can only imagine that people who shopped at the general store not only came in there for the product, but also for the experience. And the personality that Herb exhibited and the quality of care he showed each of his customers established lifelong relationships. People who were loyal and dedicated, just as he was loyal and dedicated to them. He loved to kibitz. He served so much, even on his day off, about what he would do. In addition to the gardening, he would clean the drains, stain the picnic bench. He made sure his house was in order. I can't really quote the phrase, which is, say little, do much, because he loved to kibitz so much. But he didn't lecture. He didn't tell you what to do. He showed you what to do when it came to values. He taught through his actions. And the prophet Micha might have only listed 3 qualities, but the family shared with me that he certainly had a 4th, which was to always come home from a vacation with a dark tan. I know how much Jeffrey and Randy, how much your words speak so loudly in terms of their love and a deep appreciation for your father. I have so little to add other than his sons really are so grateful for the tradition of going to Camp Tel Nor, that their parents provided for them. They sacrificed so that the kids could go away, and it was through that camp experience that their best friendships were established, and a family tradition that began with Jeffrey and Randy has been passed on to Braden, and I assume Zachary too, and Zachary. And as loud as your words speak today, your mother really said it best, was that you rewarded your father for all the love that he showed you through the closeness of your friendship, your loving relationship as brothers, no doubt kept a smile on your father's face. You've already heard about the story of how Herb met Nancy. A few details to add. It helped that he used to play football with Phil Linsky. And so when he checked out that girl with the cool hat on the high holidays and found that it was Phil Linsky's cousin, he knew he had an in. Their first date was to the movies, and he picked Nancy up in a convertible. It might have been a yellow Thunderbird. And I can only imagine that he was uniquely mature at that time, given some of the life circumstances that he had gone through. And you recognized that not only his maturity, but his goodness, that Nancy, your sons and grandchildren, have spoken about so much. He won you over. On February 14th, he gave you a charm bracelet with a little diamond chip. And then in May, he asked you to marry him, and you got married 14 months later on July 4th, 1963. The wedding took place across the street at Temple Israel. Together, as your boys said, you were a team. He worked in the store, you took care of the kids. He drove home, you made dinner. You fed the boys and then stayed and sat with Herb to have dinner at 7:30. You went to the Red Sox games together. You went on the vacations that Jeffrey mentioned. Spent time in the Caribbean, Martinique, Santo Domingo, Puerto Rico, Florida, and so many places. One thing that I'd never heard before of, which I think really speaks to Nancy and Herb's relationship, just how much their souls were aligned, is something called the dry run. Now, you heard one of the boys mention about going to a new Chinese restaurant, but what they didn't say is, before you went to the new Chinese restaurant, you had to figure out how to get there. And this is how they did, the Millers did it. Did any of you know that you could call the police station and ask for directions? So how many of you call the police station and ask for directions? So this is a real thing. The Millers would call the police station. I don't know how to get to such and such a Chinese restaurant over in Woburn. And they would start to tell them exactly, one of them's on the phone, the other one's writing it down. And before they go to the actual event, they make the dry run together. I mean, you must love spending time with each other if you do the dry run before you go to the actual event. So what an easy date. Let's go figure out how to get to the Chinese restaurant. And, it's really very special, Nancy. You heard so much about the things that Herb loved. I can only add, in addition to all the restaurants, he loved grapefruit in terms of food. He loved his wife, Nancy, his boys, Jeffrey and Randy, his daughters-in-law, his grandchildren. You might have heard about the sports and the garden, the house. You didn't hear about the dancing. He loved dancing at bar mitzvahs. The boys were imitating some of the moves that he practiced in the living room. He loved disco. He loved a cheap cigar on the drive home from the store in Newburyport. Herb, through your actions and deeds, you taught your children, your family, to be good people, to appreciate others, to always be positive, to treat the world with kindness, to be a good friend, to not complain or speak badly of others, to be warm and caring, to love life, to live life. But we know how difficult it's been for these past 12 years during your Parkinson's disease. But now you will be truly missed. But you will never be forgotten. May you rest in peace. Please rise for the memorial prayer.
El Malay Rachamim Shochen Bameromim Hamzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanafei HaShechina B'ma'alot Kedoshim Utorim Kezohar Harakia Masirim Et Nishmat Chaim Eliud Ben Arya Leib Halevi Shehalach Le'olamo Began Eden Tehei Menuchato Ana Ba'al Harachamim Hasirehu Peseter Kenafecha Le'olamim Utzror Bitzror Chachaim Et Nishmataho Adonai Hu Nachalato Ve'anuach B'Shalom Ahal Mishkavo
El Malay Rachamim, exalted compassionate God, grant perfect peace beneath the wings of your presence among the holy and the pure, whose radiance is like the heavens, to the soul of Chaim Eliud ben Aryeh Leib Halevi. May his memory be a blessing and may he rest in paradise. Master of mercy, may he find eternal shelter beneath your sheltering wings, and may his soul be bound up with the bond of life. The Lord is his portion. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. You can be seated. To Herb's family, please, Almighty God of the living and the dead, send comfort to your children who grieve. Help them focus on the triumph and the joy in Herb's life. Let they feel their father's presence when they sit in their seats at Fenway, when they watch the Celtics, when they eat at all those restaurants that Jeffrey mentioned, when they have a Reuben sandwich or a grapefruit, and all the other things. And let them be grief with courage. Help them to treasure what will always be theirs, because Herb has lived.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask the pallbearers to please come forward and face each other in the center aisle as they will come through? If you're able
Look, I mean,